but to what extent are we willing to say, I will let candidate A slide on this issue where I may not let another candidate slide because of the larger picture of getting atheists into public office. So that would be an important step. As far as keeping God and government separate, that might require a certain form of, if not single issue voting, primary issue consideration in looking at a candidate. For the survival of the non-believer today, the most important thing we can do is have people in public office who will make sure that government maintains its neutrality in matters of religion. In state legislatures around the country, we have the sickening phenomenon of elected officials falling all over themselves to outdo each other on loyalty to God. We have everything introduced into our state legislatures. In God we trust. Mandatory Pledge of Allegiance bills, requiring days of prayer, trying to get the Ten Commandments posted everywhere except in the bathrooms, maybe, of public schools and libraries. We have state legislators trying to build entire careers on promoting God in government. We must make sure that even if a candidate is a nominal believer or a liberal religionist, that that individual will support government neutrality in matters of religion. And that means that regardless of political party or affiliation, you must, to preserve your freedom and make sure we don't become second-class citizens, support only those candidates who will, if elected, fight to preserve government neutrality in matters of religion, and who believe that no branch of government can favor the believer over the non-believer. You must vote for those candidates that will not allow any religious alternative to evolution to be taught in the public schools. You must vote for those candidates who will not vote to allow a restoration of formally composed prayer in the public schools. You must make sure that you will vote for candidates who will not vote to allow government to give support to religious proselytizing churches to do the social welfare work that government should be doing. These are all issues that you must look to. You must make sure that, consistent with the principles that we hold, that you're not electing somebody who will try to make their political career on the backs of gays and lesbians by championing laws that will oppress them and saying they're doing this only to appease the angry God that they claim to worship. Because if President Bush puts one more person on the Supreme Court before leaving office, all the 60 years of precedent of government neutrality in matters of religion will be nullified, and the non-believer will become a second-class citizen. We now have 4 justices on the Supreme Court who believe that government can favor the believer over us, and all we want is equality. A great example is we don't want the Pledge of Allegiance to say one nation under no God. We just want it silent so that it can be owned by all of us. But yet many Americans are of the view that government should promote religion. And we have a massive educational process that we need to undergo that will take decades to make sure that people give up this selfish belief. But in the meantime, we have to preserve a Supreme Court that says, as it has always said from 1947 onward through the present day, we don't care if a majority of Americans want this form of government-sponsored religion. We will not let it happen. Up until today, that has been the unbroken line of consequences of Supreme Court opinion. But now our majority is down to 5-4. with a shift of just one vote on the High Court, the floodgates can be opened as never before for government to favor the believer over the non-believer. Last year, in a chilling dissenting opinion, Justice Scalia openly said the First Amendment does not protect the devout atheist. That is the harbinger of second-class citizenship for us. That is the beginning of the yellow badge that atheists have to wear. That is the beginning of a myriad of laws from Congress and the legislatures that we can't even begin to imagine, which will give special rights to only the religious. Justice O'Connor said right before retiring from the court, church-state separation has worked so well for the United States, and its absence has caused so much strife elsewhere, that she urges her colleagues not to abandon it. Now, as far as message, the core message that we need to bring to the general public, and the kind of bifurcated approach we have to take. First, making sure that the public will even hear us, and then secondly, framing the arguments. To make sure the public will even hear us, we have to be visible. We have to talk to friends and neighbors. We have to talk to community groups. We have to talk to church groups. We have to have debates on college campuses. And we have to point out that the essence of America is hearing all sides, and that you cannot begin with the default that religion is true and that its alternative is false. That's something that's open for debate. We must till the soil so that people even give us a hearing. I had a very chilling experience earlier this year. I was speaking at the University of Florida, Central Florida in Orlando, and I did an address to a mixed group of students, about 100 of them, on why there really is no God, where I presented the atheistic evidence and the arguments. Even the religious students admitted that my arguments were powerful, but a majority of the students said afterwards that while they could not come up with answers to the points that I was raising, they didn't believe it should have been even legal for me to make those arguments in public. So the task is to first incline ever larger segments of the American people to accept the legal and even social propriety of atheists explaining why we reject God's existence. Now, even if people accept that it should be legal reluctantly for us to make our arguments, most Americans believe that it is impolite for the atheist to articulate our views, that somehow religious dogma deserves a special pass in polite society, and that you are uncouth or you are somehow socially maladjusted. That in essence, for the atheist to go before a public audience and give the reasons why the atheist believes there is no God is the social equivalent, quite frankly, of farting in an elevator. And we have to get the American people to see that it is the final result of the accumulation of world intellectual history, and that the scientific naturalism that rejects the supernatural requires this kind of discussion to take place.